Welcome to MilSpouse Matters, the podcast dedicated to encouraging military spouses. I'm your host, Jen McDonald, and I was a military spouse for 30 years until my husband retired. We lived all around the world, raised 4 kids, and dealt with all the challenges and adventures of military life, just like you. Over the years, I came to believe that we military spouses are only stronger together. So whether you're a new or more seasoned spouse, whatever life is throwing your way, let's talk about it. So hello there. I just wanted to mention a couple of things before we get into today's episode. Today, I'm talking to Brooke McClain, who is the CEO of the Air Force Enlisted Village. And if you have read my new book or are about to read it, we are talking about some of the story behind the amazing widows from the Air Force Enlisted Village that I was able to interview a few years back and share some of their stories in my book. So I really just wanted to have him come on the podcast to give you some background about what they do and hear some stories about daily life at the Air Force Enlisted Village. As I mentioned in this episode with him, we recorded this before my book came out. It just came out this past week on October 10th, and you can find it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, on Kindle, ebook, print, hardcover, paperback, and I will share a link for you to find that. And I would so love it if you got the book and then left a review wherever you purchase it. That would help so much, either on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or Goodreads. And also be looking for some giveaways in the coming weeks. I will be giving away a signed copy or a few signed copies of my brand new book. I know there's a lot going on in the world right now, and I've heard from some of you that your spouses have been tasked for rapid deployments with all the unrest in the Middle East. And so I just want you to know that my heart goes out to you. I am praying for you. And for the month of October, I am offering my 5-day deployment devotional that is on my site free. Just use the code deployment23, deployment, the number 23 all together at checkout, and download your free 5-day guide. It contains some scriptures to memorize and dwell on, some daily action tips, some of my own story, and just some things to help you during this time of deployment. And feel free to share that with any other spouses that you think could use it this month. And I'll take a look and see if there's still a need. I may extend that, but for now, it's through the end of October on my website. Just look for that link in the show notes. And just a reminder that the Pillar Online Deployment Retreat is coming up November 17th through the 19th. It's completely free. All you have to do is sign up. I'm going to share a link for their Facebook group where you can answer the questions and get registered. And then you are added to the private Facebook group where they will be sharing all of the talks over those days. And leading up to it, there's lots of giveaways. There are chats with some of the speakers. I just did one this past week about helping your children through multiple deployments. So all of those are right there and you can watch them whenever you want. I was able to speak last year about helping your teens through a parent's deployment. And this year I am speaking about in-laws and deployments, the do's and don'ts of in-laws and deployments, both from the perspective of a military spouse and now the mom of a military member who's been through 2 deployments. So I share some of my tips and some thoughts from those experiences. So maybe that will help you as you navigate deployment with your own in-laws. And you get lots of downloads and freebies. All of the different guests will be providing something of use for you to take away and even use later. So make sure and sign up for the Pillar Deployment Retreat. Okay, I think that's it for now. I really hope you enjoy this talk with my friend, Brooke McClain, who is the CEO of the Air Force Enlisted Village, which provides a home for widows of enlisted members who are over the age of 55. I hope you have a great week wherever in the world this finds you. So, hey everybody, today I am talking to Brooke McClain, who is a retired Chief Master Sergeant and the President and CEO of the Air Force Enlisted Village. This one-of-a-kind organization provides a safe and secure home for surviving spouses of military retirees and retired military couples. I also met Brooke and his wife, Maria, when we were all active duty, and they were our neighbors in Hawaii. So I also know he's an all-around great person. You can learn more and connect with the Air Force Enlisted Village at afev.us and on social media and YouTube. along with Brooke's YouTube series, Cook with Brooke, where he talks about what's cooking at the village. And we'll link to all of that in the show notes. I also highlight some of the amazing Air Force enlisted village widows in my upcoming book, Milspouse Matters, sharing strength through our stories. And I had such a great visit with them. So I am so excited to be joined by Brooke today. Welcome, Brooke.
Well, thank you very much. I'm so excited to be on it, and this is a great opportunity for you and I to catch up, number one, and then also just to share a little bit about life at the village and maybe educate people about what it is that we get to do here.
Yeah, it's a wonderful place. It's such a cool facility. I really enjoyed our time there. I need to come back.
Yes, please.
Well, before we get into the details about that, Brooke, would you tell us a little bit of background about yourself and your family and your experience in military life?
Sure. So I was in the Air Force for 30 years, and I was in Hawaii for my last assignment as the PACAF Command Chief, which is where we got to be neighbors. That was a wonderful experience there. My wife, Maria, is also a retired Chief Master Sergeant, and we have three children. We're a blended family, and with five grandchildren, and number six is on the way as well. And all of our children are either still on active duty or have served on active duty. We had one Marine, and then we have two Air Force folks in our family. So we're very much a military family. And I look back on the day that I joined the Air Force and the most important decision I ever made in my life, and I had no idea that I was making it at the time. So it's been a blessing to have been able to serve.
Yeah. And we are appreciative of you and Maria. Both of you were such supportive, real people. You don't always find that in leadership. And you guys were just such a good example to us, I know, and to so many other families. And so here you are continuing that wonderful work with the military community.
Yeah, it's when you love what you do, it's not hard and it's easy to connect with people. And I think that's one of the things that I really look back on in my time in the military was the amazing people that you got to
Mm-hmm.
meet, got to serve with. And there were certainly hard times and there were difficulties, but having that connectedness and that network of people, it's just been amazing.
It does make all the difference for sure.
Mhm.
How did you come to be familiar with the Air Force Enlisted Village and then later get involved with it to the point that you are now the CEO?
Well, so we're located near Eglin Air Force Base in the Destin Fort Walton Beach area.
Hmm.
And I was stationed over at Hurlburt Field a couple different times, specifically 2002 to 2005 timeframe. And my unit used to come over here and volunteer. Chief Master of the Air Force number 9, Jim Binnicker, was the CEO at the time. And many units came over and volunteered, and whether it was doing simple things like doing landscaping or just spending time talking with the residents, it was a way for the unit to be involved. And through that process, you not only got to help out the residents here, but you were also able to bring junior airmen over or junior enlisted members and bring them along, let them experience what the village was. And so they got to understand it. And then they also learned the value of volunteering and being involved. So
Hmm.
that was a big portion of it. And then um, fast forward about 11 years, and we were leaving Hawaii and retiring in the fall of 2012. And we had decided to move back in this area. And Chief Binnicker had reached out when he learned that we were coming back here and said, "Hey, would you like to come over and work here?" And of course, anybody that had an opportunity to spend time with Chief Binnicker,
Hmm.
there was only one answer to that. It was like, "Yes, when do I report? What can I do to help you?" And
Nice.
so we came over and started working almost right away, and it's been a fantastic experience. I started off working marketing and doing some fundraising, and then had transitioned through there after he unfortunately passed away in 2015.
I can't believe it's been that long.
I
Wow.
know I'm over 10 years. It's hard to believe.
That's awesome. Can you tell us who is eligible to live at the Air Force Enlisted Village and how does that process work?
Sure. So just a little bit of additional background on it. So we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization that was established in the late 1960s to try to help widows of enlisted members. And at the time, the demographic and most everybody that retired at that time was a man. And so it was focused on the widows. And unfortunately, what had happened in a lot of circumstances was the military member had retired, and then if the military member passed away, the benefits stopped. And so this was before you had survivor benefit plan, and you didn't have a lot of the social support net that is in place now. So there was a large population of widows across the U.S. that were really in a terrible situation. They were without a homestead. Had never had a career. They didn't necessarily have a lot of money. The pay and benefits were very different back then. So our organization stood up to try to take care of those widows. And over time, we have changed and morphed. And so now we look like a traditional retirement community, but we're focused on Air Force widows. That's our number one priority. And so you have to be 55 or older to move in here. We do have widows, we do have couples, and we have some people from other services, but we're still probably a 95% Air Force population here, and it's not a veteran population. It's a retired population. So that's one of the things that make us different than a lot of other organizations.
Yes. Yeah, it's a great community, and I was just when you're saying the age, I'm like, oh my gosh, I could live there in a couple years if I if I needed
Mm-hmm.
to. Oh, God.
Mm-hmm.
How is that possible? Anyway,
We have 600 residents that live here right now. So we have independent living, we have assisted living, and we also have the ability to take care of people with memory care, memory support issues. So people with Alzheimer's and dementia, I have that ability to care for them.
that's wonderful. I don't know that people realize this exists. Whenever I talk about it, people are always so intrigued by it. It's like there's this whole place, for spouses that need it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a wonderful place. It really is. I mean, the staff members here, many of them are retired military, and almost all of them have served at some level in the military during their time. So it has a distinct feel to it that many people, find comforting when they move in here or when they visit.
It's very familiar, and it almost feels like a base. That's one thing I noticed. It feels a lot like living on base. And several of them said that to me too. It was like coming back home, because they'd lived on base earlier in their lives. So you just kind of see that with the chapel and the little dining hall and all the
Mm-hmm.
activities.
And when the wind is right, we're close enough to Eglin Air Force Base that you can hear the national anthem played in the afternoon. And so I remember reading that or in your book there about how the kids on a base will stop and everybody put their hand over their heart and they'll stand at attention. And my grandchildren were visiting here a couple of years ago, and you could hear the national anthem in the background, and so they all stopped and came to attention. That is such
Um,
a wonderful military experience.
it is. It is. Well, one thing that really struck me when I was there, how active they are, because I think a lot of times if you think of a retirement community, you think of maybe slowing down, but they are busy, busy, busy. And so maybe tell us what a day looks like at the Air Force Enlisted Village for residents and for you.
Well, for residents, I would tell you they are very busy, not only with the different activities that we have here on campus, but also they volunteer at the hospital, they volunteer at the USO, and so they're
Mhm.
out about. Some of them continue to work, they have part-time jobs just to kind of keep themselves engaged. But very similar to what you see on the military side when you talk about resilience and having that whole life, the spiritual, physical, social, mental aspects of being healthy, that is very true in aging as well. And so
Mhm.
we call it wellness, and it is those areas. And so there's people that are involved in the church. We have a great fitness program. We have people that do um, water aerobics. We probably have 5 water aerobics classes a day down here. People are very social. They do everything from Wii bowling to book clubs to different things. And so the residents are as engaged as they want to be, and some are more so than others. But it's a safe, secure place. We offer them a lot of opportunities to be able to get involved. And
That's
so, and
wonderful.
for a day like for us, and I mean, for us in many ways, it's It's has a feel of a traditional business. I mean, we have finance, we have um, bills that get paid, we have HR, and we're trying to always find people to come to work here, and then we're interacting with the residents. So it has all the attributes of a traditional business, and we always say, that we have to make. We're a nonprofit, but we still have to be able to make money. We have to be able to keep the books going, and we have to be able to reinvest back into the community so that the campus that we have now, 50 years from now, is going to be available to the next generations that are going to come behind us.
Yeah. And if you wanted to take a tour, if somebody wanted to take a tour, they could just reach out to you if they happen to be in the area or live nearby.
Absolutely, yeah. So you can contact us through the web on the www.afev.us, or you can come in over the phone 800 no, not 800, 850-651-3766, and reach out to us. And we have people come tour all the time,
Yeah.
and it's a wonderful opportunity for people just to come that may have heard about it, and they are always surprised to see how big the campus is
It
at
is.
125 acres, beautiful
It
setting
is
with
beautiful.
the trees, everything's green. So I wish I could show people what the campus is really like, because they always come in and they say, I had no idea it looked like this.
Yeah.
So,
We'll have to put a couple pictures in the show notes for people to see. We'll link to your site.
yeah. But we have some great videos too out on our YouTube channel where
Yeah.
they can come and they can see an aerial view. We've had some drone footage that really captures what the community looks like.
hmm And I remember when I was there was a spouse I was talking to, and she was like walking laps around the. She's like, I'll be there in a minute. Let me finish my last lap. Yeah. Well, speaking of, I had such a great time during my visit there and meeting some of the widows that are in my new book. And I would love for you to share a couple of your favorite stories about residents. You don't have to use names, or you can just use first names, and, some of the things that have really been meaningful for you during your time there.
Well, the residents are all fantastic, and some of their life experiences are just incredible. We've
Yeah.
had people that were World War II survivors, and I think one of the residents you interviewed, uh, and she used to tell the story. She grew up in Hawaii, and she remembers seeing the planes flying over on the morning of December 7th over her farm when they were on their way to Pearl Harbor. So,
Wow.
I mean, those kind of things give you the chills when you get a chance to talk to somebody
Mhm.
and the things they went through. But, one of my favorite stories is about a lady, and I'll call her Amy for lack of a better word, but she had lived in all of our communities. So we used to have an apartment complex where we first started off called Teresa Village. And then we built Bob Hope Village. And so she moved over here. And then we built the Hawthorne House. And so that's assisted living, to where, if you need help with medication management or something else like that, you can go there. And then finally, she ended up over in our memory support area. And she had grown up in South Carolina, and she was very feisty, used to smoke, and she used to sneak out the back door to go smoke a cigarette. And we were constantly on her about that. But she loved Dr. Pepper. And so as she was aging, she ended up over in the memory support area. And one night she woke up about 3 o'clock in the morning, and we have pendants and we have buttons where they can call for an assistant to come help them. But she reached out and she picked up the phone and called 911 and asked for a Dr. Pepper, which which is kind of funny. But what I love is about 30 minutes later, the sheriff showed up with a Dr. Pepper for
Oh,
her. So
doing like a welfare check. Let's make sure she's okay and bring her a
yeah,
Dr. Pepper.
and it shows, it tells me how much the local community understands
Yeah,
what it is that we do out here. And so that's always been one of my favorite stories. And
that's so
it's just,
funny.
yeah, it always makes me laugh when I think about it. They're very appreciative too of our local support that we get here.
Yeah. Yeah. And what do residents say that they love best about living there? It's obviously a great community.
They feel connected. When someone moves in here and they may have come from a different state, or they could have come, we've had people that have moved in here directly, come back from Germany and from Japan. And when they move in here, they automatically have a sense that they belong to the community, because we all speak the same language. We know what a TDY is. We know what a PCS is. We know what moving around is. So they have that common background. And so they may not have been stationed together, but they've probably been stationed at similar places.
Right.
Um, and if you've been stationed at Ramstein, then you can talk about Ramstein, or if you've been
Yeah.
in Japan, then you can talk about that. So, it feels very comfortable for people when they move in here.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember one of the ladies telling me, she said, nobody else understands what you did without what you went through. And, she's much older when I was talking to her and Steve hadn't retired yet. And I thought, that's it right there. Like that's that common ground that common language, like you said, where you just can relate because you have that kind of shared history. So it's really cool that they have that later in life too.
It is, and it just it makes people comfortable. Like you said, it also it does feel a little bit like a base, like a small little overseas post.
Yeah, it does. You have the community of the drama. Yeah. Maybe a little bit
Hmm.
of that sometimes too.
You certainly do.
Well, tell us what's coming for the Air Force Enlisted Village, Brooke.
Well, a couple things. First off, we have as I said earlier, we have 600 residents now, and we have 415 apartments for our independent living. And if you're not familiar with some of the terminology, independent living is just as it says. You have a unit, apartment that you stay in, and we have one bedroom apartments all the way up to two bedroom, two bath with a big den. So there's a lot of choices and a lot of variety. Um, and we're at the point now where we need to build more units. And so we're going to build 51 new apartments. We're going to start those later on this year, and those will be open in the spring of 2026.
Oh,
So
wow.
about 15 months from now, maybe 16 months, we'll be able to start moving people in. And I may have done the math wrong on that. I guess it's 2025 is when the spring of 2025 is when that'll open.
Okay.
Um, so we have about 130 people on our wait list. And the way people typically they'll come and they may have heard about us either through the Air Force Assistance Fund, which is where people can donate money through the active duty program, or they may have read about us in the Afterburner, which is the Air Force retiree newsletter
Hmm.
that comes out. And they'll come and they'll visit and they'll tour and they'll think, okay, well, I want to sign up. And so they'll fill out some paperwork with us. They put down a refundable deposit. So if they decide at some point that they don't want to move in, we'll send the money back to them. But that allows us to know that they're serious about moving in. And so we're at the point now where, again, we've got about 130 people that are on our wait list. And they want to move in. So we're going to build it and we're going to hope that they come.
Well, you have quite a number of couples too. It's not just widows.
It's about half couples,
Okay.
and so it's still predominantly a widow population. And again, they're our number one priority. And when we go to our wait list, when we have an apartment come open, we always go to the list of widows or widowers. And it's not just the Air Force; it's also the Space Force is eligible within this community as well. So that's a big piece. And we recognize that we are a one of a kind community, and there's not a community like this for the Army, the Navy, or the Marine Corps. And we are working right now to get 80 acres of land from the Air Force, and we'd like to build a community like this for the joint community, so that a sailor, or soldier, or a Marine, or surviving spouse of one of those would have a place to come to, um, and have the opportunity to be able to have this same type of an experience. And we think we're in a great place to be able to do that. We've identified the 80 acres of land right across the street from us. So
Oh,
we'll be able to build using the existing infrastructure to support that. We have a purchase and sale agreement that we signed with the Air Force that will be complete next summer. So we'll buy that 80 acres of land, and it will serve that joint community. And then more recently, we've also really kind of recognized that it's going to be a significant need for wounded warriors and their caregivers as they age. And so that's going to be a big part of this community too. And if you think about, someone that was injured, say in 2005, and they were 30 years old at the time, well, that individual now is in their late 40s. And so they're, depending on what their situation is, they may have some significant aging complications. And then also the caregivers are, many of them have set aside their own life priorities, and haven't they don't have that same foundation to be able to have that support if the wounded warrior passes away. And it's very similar to the situation when our organization was founded in the 1960s. There's not a network for the caregivers to be able to get that support after the wounded warrior passes away.
Mm. Well, that will give people so much hope. And it just sounds like you guys are in a great position to identify that. You have all this experience of what you're doing and use that for this next community. That's wonderful.
Yeah, we're really excited about it, and we've got great support from the state of Florida. They've given us a couple $1 million this year to help us with the purchase of the land, and our local congressman is working through trying to see if we can change it a little bit so that it's actually a gift versus a purchase. We are an official charity of the Air Force, and so that gives us a special status to be able to access some of the support that a traditional nonprofit wouldn't be able to get. So we're excited about it. We think we've got the right mix of traditional military retirement community along with the support for the wounded warriors, and having the time to be able to get that in place before it becomes a critical need for the nation.
That's great. Well, if listeners are wanting to help support in some way, what ways can they do that?
Well, you can go to online, www.afev.us, and you'll be able to see our website. We also have a website for the new community. It's called Victory Village, and so that's www.victoryvillage.us. And you can go out there, and there are ways that if you wanted to donate, you can do that. If you want to come take a tour, you can do that as well. Or if you're in the local area and you'd like to come out and volunteer, we love having volunteers come out. It's wonderful for the residents. And as I mentioned from my experience, it gets you connected with the community and allows you opportunities to be able to, either maybe teach your kids the importance of volunteering, or if you're mentoring somebody, let them know the importance of being involved.
That's wonderful. Well, I want to hear more about if somebody is looking to possibly live there, that process. But before we do that, tell us a little bit about your YouTube, I guess, show, for lack of a better word, of Cook with Brooke. I think it's really kind of cute, and it's not cooking. So what do you do on on your YouTube?
Well, so going back during COVID, and we were a lot like a lot of communities. We were so concerned about the health and welfare of our residents and trying to protect them. And so we would put out information to them on a regular basis, and we would send out memos and letters and things. And we would do some interviews with staff members to be able to talk about things that were happening. And one of our staff members said, when you have a video, and we have an in-house channel that is playing in different areas of the community. So when you are on the video, people stop and listen and pay attention to it. It's different than sending them a letter. So we started with that, and then we just kind of built off of it and said, well, let's start providing information. And initially, a lot of it was about COVID and the restrictions and how we were managing it and helping them understand some of the concerns. And then it became more of, well, let's meet some of the staff members and let's meet some of the people from the Chamber of Commerce. And we've had, the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force has been on, Senior Enlisted Advisor to the Chairman has been on. And so we've had just fun interviews to where we talk and we hear about other things. And at the core of it is it's an informational video that lets the residents know what's going on around campus.
Yeah. I can't imagine how challenging that must have been during COVID, because they weren't able to be in groups at all, were they?
No, and we were locked down. We closed the campus for probably about 6 or 8 weeks, so we wouldn't allow any visitors on. Um, and one of the really fun stories about that time, though, was we started doing shopping for the residents because they were scared to go to Walmart or to
Sure.
go to the commissary or something like that. So we would get shopping lists from them, and then we would meet airmen from Hurlburt, their E5s and E6 group over there, would meet our activities folks down at Walmart and hand out the shopping lists. And so they would go do the shopping for the residents, and then we load it back on buses, and then we deliver it to the residents. And there were some great relationships that developed out of that because the staff sergeants and tech sergeants would look at something and they, well, what kind of milk do you want? What kind of butter? So they would call the resident, and they
Oh,
became friends. And so
oh, I
it
love
was
it.
amazing. And I think we purchased close to $50,000 worth of groceries during that time
Oh,
frame.
wow.
And so it was just that, it's one of those opportunities where the young people get involved and they're like, hey, I want to go do something. I want to make a difference. And it was a wonderful time for us. But COVID was obviously very scary.
Oh gosh. Well, and that's like one of those unexpected things you could never have foreseen as far as the grocery shopping, making a
Mm-mm.
connection, but like a nice little blessing in the midst of all of that lockdown. That must have been such
It
a
was.
challenge for them. Very isolating. Yeah.
Yeah, and we did a good job though, of managing that, and we were able to keep people safe, and we had a lot of outdoor activities. A lot of people started to learn how to play cornhole that had never been outside before, so doing that,
Yeah.
it
That's
was a lot of
great.
fun though.
Well, if somebody is interested in living there, can you tell us the process for planning a visit or how to get on that waiting list?
Sure. So first off, hit the website and take a look at it, and there'll be information there. You'll be able to see some of the information, um, and then schedule an appointment and come out and take a tour. No, obviously, no obligation after taking the tour. But if you want to learn more, you'll get a chance to see. We have great people. We have a fantastic caterer that runs our restaurant here, and so there's good food that's available, and they will come out and be able to see what it is that we're doing here. And if they're interested, then they move forward. They can fill out some paperwork with us and get on the wait list, and then they'll be informed. And just because you're going on the wait list doesn't mean that you're going to immediately be asked to move in.
Right.
Um, and there's no harm, no foul. It's not like base housing either, where if you get on the list and you get to the top of the list, we're going to put you in the penalty box because you're not ready to move. We understand that people are going to make that decision on their own. And so it's a way for us to be able to keep them informed and to know who's ready to move.
Well, great. And I can't say enough about the work you're doing there and how wonderful it is. And it really is such a great community. So if you're ever in the Florida area, listeners, and or live there, make a point of going out and just checking out what they're doing because it's just such an incredible place.
It's so heartwarming. If you're having a bad day, just go walk around and talk with the residents, and they'll
Yeah.
they'll cheer you up. They have a wonderful perspective on life.
Yeah. I think they'd be great mentors for current day military spouses, which is one reason I'm so glad to share some of their stories. And not all the stories made the cut for the book. I didn't have the control over that. That's editorial, but I will be putting more stories on my website too because I just I could have sat with them for days and days. I think I was only there for 3 days and it was not enough time, obviously.
Sounds like you need to come back.
I know. Well, Brooke, it's been so great to talk to you today. And before we close, is there anything you would like to say to current military families? I know you have a son-in-law that's still active duty as well.
Well, I just number one, I mean, very proud of our military and the service of the families and the things that they do. And I think that the military people don't understand how special they are. That because you get into a unit or you get onto a base and it just becomes what you do, and you don't realize the unique culture that you're part of. You in the military, you're largely drug free, you're largely crime free. You have a support network. You have people that are on your team that are doing the exact same thing, working the same direction. And in the civilian world, you don't necessarily have that. And so I think people sometimes don't appreciate what a special thing it is to have military service, and to be surrounded with people that have the same beliefs and the same values that you do. So I applaud them for that, and I would just encourage them to not take that for granted, to look around. And I remember when we lived together there in Hawaii, and you would see, the kids on riding their bikes to elementary school, down the street every day, and it was just like it was like a postcard, to be able to see that insulated community and the safety and the way that people felt on the bases. And so not something to be taken lightly.
Oh, for sure. It really is like Mayberry.
Mm-hmm.
And we had lived on base for so many years after Steve retired and we moved into this house that we're in. And the first couple of nights I was like, I couldn't sleep. It was weird because I said, we've just come from the ultimate gated community, with armed guards at every gate. And now is this how people live?
Yeah. And then we did the same thing when we retired. We had neighbors and we lived there for a couple of months, and we never got a chance to know them or anything. And you never do that in a military community.
Oh, no.
You automatically talk with people, and like you shared the story in your book about your kids, and you show up, and the neighborhood kids are trying to find out who's there and when can they come out to play. And
yeah, sometimes it can be a lot, but yeah, it's very welcome. And so trying to recreate that post-military life is a challenge. It's never going to be the same, and kind of have to make peace with that. But yeah, I agree. Definitely treasure that time while you're active duty, because it's really not something you can replicate again, as far as maybe at the Air Force Enlisted Village.
Yeah, when you get later on in life, you certainly can come here. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's very similar. Well, Brooke, it's been so great talking to you today. And I thank you so much for giving your time to join me today.
Well, I really appreciate the opportunity. And I just, my daughter-in-law is very much the military spouse. And then actually both my daughters-in-law are. One of them is actually on active duty, which is and another one, when you have the military married to military,
yeah,
that's another challenge there. But they're amazing people, and so I really appreciate the fact that you have focused and given so much back to this community and been able to be a facilitator for people to share and understand some of the challenges.
Oh, thanks, Brooke. Well, it's been great talking to you today. And listeners, remember, you can find out more about the Air Force Enlisted Village at their website and on social media. And we will share all of that in the show notes, as well as the YouTube channel. And so until next time, it's been great talking to you all. And remember, military spouses, you are brave, you are strong, and you've got this. And I'll talk to you next time. Thanks for listening to the MilSpouse Matters podcast. You can connect with me at jen-mcdonald.com or on social media as @MilSpouseMatters. You can find even more military life support with my books, You Are Not Alone, Encouragement for the Heart of a Military Spouse, and MilSpouse Matters, Sharing Strength Through Our Stories, as well as my other podcast, The Christian MilSpouse. Love the show? Please subscribe and leave a 5-star review wherever you're listening, and then share it with someone else who could use it too. Until next time, have a great week.